This is E-Commerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of E-Commerce Uncensored. This is episode number 165. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso.
And we have a pretty exciting episode today, I think.
Yeah, we have a treat.
Yeah, special guest we've been trying to get on for a while and just hasn't worked. We finally were able to get him on, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have him on again. We were talking to him for about 45 minutes before we started the podcast. So the podcast itself, I felt we could have... There were so many more directions I wanted to go into that we couldn't get into, so we're going to have him on again when both of our schedules permit. But before we get into this, we have to talk about our favorite.
Yes, growth marketing platform, which is Klaviyo.
Which saved our asses yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
Our Facebook ads were down, and we sent out, on Kevin's recommendation, we sent out an email, and it basically saved us for the day. We were losing money. So... Yeah, I mean, it was. We did it through Klaviyo, and it made like 15 sales, literally, almost instantly.
And it goes back to the whole concept about owning your revenue, because whenever, and I was texting with Jason and our other partner about this, how like awesome it is to be able to like, okay, we're gonna send an email, let's make some money today if we're having a rough day. If it's weird how social, we've been talking about the last couple episodes about how email and social kind of work together, and when just social has like a down day for whatever reason. There's really sometimes no explanation for it. You can just send an email and make money.
All right. So yesterday our ads were, shitting the bed, and today they're doing great. So it's a weird thing. So Klaviyo right now, or what are they doing, Kev? They're doing a demo, right?
Yeah, you can go to klaviyo.com, which is klaviyo.com/uncensored, and they say here you could schedule a demo, which is great because I know that we get people on our Facebook group asking for that kind of stuff all the time. So that's an awesome opportunity to have like kind of a walkthrough with them. Okay. And they also have this great content that they've been sharing on Facebook Live every morning. Jake Cohen over there, they've been collecting a whole ton of data about what's going on with COVID-19 and how people are responding, how people are dealing with it. And they're sharing all that data with everybody. So that's a real cool thing too. So you should check that out on their Facebook page.
Yeah. And secondly,
Rakuten, Super Logistics.
Yeah, I mean, our clients all the time, they're coming to us saying like, oh yeah, our 3PLs, they're terrible. I can't integrate my store with them. My product is not getting out. Rakuten Super Logistics will fix that for you.
Yeah, and they have these warehouses, 15 of them nationwide that help you get that's how Amazon and things like that, they help you get your product to certain places faster.
Much faster.
They, all around the country, and they integrate really seamlessly with Shopify and all the major other carts and shopping carts and marketplaces. So you got to check them out. They got a huge deal where they're going to take all your costs. So you go on, where is it? ecommerceuncensored.com/RSL. You could fill out their form and use promo code uncensored. And what they'll do is they'll collect all your costs that you're currently spending with your fulfillment and your shipping. They'll compare it to theirs, and they guarantee that theirs will be, they'll be able to save you money, or they'll just cut you a check for $500. Right. So it's like a risk-free thing that they're running right now. Head over there, and there's no reason not to compare their prices.
E-commerce Uncensored.
You'll get $500.
Right. ecommerceuncensored.com/RSL. And lastly, guys, I am doing a Facebook course called The Truth About Facebook Ads. If you're running Facebook ads and you're struggling, you're going to want to check this out. Go to ecommerceuncensored.com/truth. Get signed up. And I'm actually going to do a live training starting actually later on today.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Right.
All right, so we're going to be joined with, I don't know if I actually, in the beginning part of this episode, announced who he was. So It's Ezra Firestone. He's got, eight-figure cosmetic brand he's building. He's got an info product in smartmarketer.com, and he's got a software that he used that's built into Shopify.
And he owns a big giant, the cosmetic company. And if you're in e-commerce, you know who Ezra Firestone is. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Enjoy.
One big problem entrepreneurs have is they're afraid to ask for help. They're afraid to admit where they don't have skill. And I've never had that problem. I've always been like, who can help me with this? Who's the best in the world at this? And how can I get them to come help me?
A little bit of energy. Hey, can I get some dance music? No? Not a dancing crowd? All right.
People try to run and sprint, and it's like, no, man, this is a marathon. What we're doing is we're playing a long game. We're not spearfishing, trying to eat.
Hello, Ezra. It's great to have you. Thanks for being on our show.
Hey, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I feel like we just did a podcast.
Yeah. We've been trying to get you on the show, man, for how long?
A long time. You guys reached out a long time ago, and I actually really like I see you in my Instagram feed. Instagram is the platform that I use as a social media consumer, and so like when I am consuming content, it's Instagram's feeds or Instagram TV, IGTV, and so I've seen you guys. Facebook knows I'm e-commerce person. I'm an e-commerce person, so they put e-com stuff in my feed, and I think I saw you guys. Ended up following you. It's like, oh, cool e-commerce content. And then every now and again, I'll see one of your bits or one of your little clips, and you just have a good vibe. You're hanging out, talking shit. Pardon my language.
Half the time we don't know what the hell we're doing. To be honest,
I think the first way we got connected, I think we did a podcast like when we first started, where episode like 30, we talked about like some of our favorite tools that we like to use on Shopify. And we had talked about Zipify, one-click upsells, and we had tagged you in one of our posts. And that's how this whole relationship started. And then we got our Klaviyo connection, and we were going to the Klaviyo conference, and it's been a long time climbing.
Oh, that's right. We were supposed to record it at the Klaviyo conference that I then didn't show up to.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yes, you did. Matter of fact, it's funny because we've I know you use Klaviyo for some of your businesses, and we became pretty friendly with them. They sponsor the show.
Nice.
We go to Boston every year. And one of the girls came up to us. She's like, "Yeah, Ezra's not speaking." We're like, "Huh?" We had no idea. And she's like, "Yeah, something else came up." And they were bummed, man. They were really looking forward for you.
I really would have loved to do it. I've been working with them. I was actually in talks to do 2020, and then I guess that's canceled now.
Yeah.
From what I understand,
we go every year.
I don't know if it is. I don't want to put any rumors out there. This could be total rumor mill, but it seems like seems unlikely, right? When is it? It's supposed to be like this summer?
September. No, it's usually in September. So
but didn't they change it? Didn't they change it to August though, Kev, or something?
I don't know.
Me neither.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Well, I hope to see you guys there.
But yeah, we totally had this awesome conversation before we started, and I'm like, oh, this is great content. We didn't start yet.
Right, and then Ezra's like, stop recording right now. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, that was confidential stuff. I didn't want to get out there, but I'm happy to kind of rehash any of that we feel like the listeners would be interested in, the valuation stuff, whatever happened to Boom with coronavirus, any of that stuff.
Yeah, so I think Ezra, you're obviously it's funny because for the last few years, like you, we've obviously followed you. You said you've seen our podcast and your feed on Instagram, and we've followed you. And I was just telling Kevin before, you're pretty open about your numbers with Boom. Are you okay with if I bring these? What I'm about to, okay. So like one day I see you like, yeah, we're doing 25 million with Boom. And then literally at the next year, you're like, yeah, we're doing 75 million with Boom. I'm like, huh? What the hell just happened?
So what I realized was, so 75 million is cumulative revenue that Boom has generated in the last 4 years. We're actually up over 100 now. So that was 25 million a year in top line revenue, which, by the way, everybody wants to come out, myself included, and tell you about how much top line revenue they make. That shit doesn't really matter. What matters is how much money do you keep? How much profit do you have? Top line is sexy and it gets people's attention. And as someone who is going out there trying to get people's attention and get them to pay attention to me, I use a sort of system that my wife would really love for me to have a different analogy, but this is the best I can come up with. This is the chocolate covered carrot. So the chocolate covered carrot is, I use the chocolate to get your attention, right? It's like, hey, I'm making $25 million a year with my company, or I made $100 million in revenue over the last 4.5 years with my Shopify store. And then when you actually come in and you want to come in, you want to make money, and that's how I get your attention, because you won't pay attention to, hey, the real way to actually be successful in business is to have integrity and put out content that your community is going to be engaged with, and make the best product in the market, and do sophisticated conversion rate optimization and upsell, cross-sell, like all the stuff that is the sort of technical, tactical, the carrot, the vegetables that I teach aren't isn't usually what I lead with, because I've found that leading with something that is a little more sensationalized works to get people's attention in this environment that we're in, where everybody is bombarded with content and ads, and like you need a little sensationalism, in my opinion, in order to get someone who doesn't know about you's attention. And so that's why I kind of use those bigger numbers, even though you look at Boom, hey, we do very well. We might make 3 to 4 million a year in profit, which is in the best business I've ever had. But that doesn't sound as sexy as, hey, we did 25 million in revenue. So that's kind of why I lead with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Kevin and I, we were talking to you about this little side business that we have, and we say side business, but it really is more than a side business.
Starting to become that, yeah.
Right, and like 7 months, we're on track to do multi-million dollars already.
So amazing.
It's amazing because it's like you're a little kid. When this is like the first time you've had a business that is doing these kind of numbers, and you're seeing, like we said, $6,000 a day, $8,000 a day, and it's almost unfathomable.
And you can't sleep, and all you can it's just swirling in your head all the time. The things you could do, and the sort of the energy that comes with that success. I every time a new venture works, I have that same feeling, and every time a new venture fails, I have the opposite of that feeling. But it's amazing. I mean, it's so cool to hear that's going on for you guys. And it's also like, how many years have you been in the trenches? How many years have you been banging it out, making it happen, running ads, like to have your own offer that is converting? And it's like oftentimes not a function of, obviously you knew what to do, right? Oftentimes it's a function of that, like a market that has not gotten a particular message that resonates with them yet or done as well. And then you come in and you just happen, like with Boom, it's like I'm selling cosmetics. Everybody sells cosmetics, you know what I mean? But what makes Boom unique is I kind of hit this zeitgeist of this right message to the right group of people at the right time. And that is both skill and yay for me, and I'm a smart marketer and all that stuff, but it's also luck. I got lucky that it just worked, And so I'm not trying to downplay your success, but I am saying, like,
no, Ezra, one thing that attracted us to you was, you talk a lot about, the marketers, they say grind. He's like, always working. And then like you hear, other successful people. And then like when you become successful, you realize that all that noise is not really how it is on the other side. We were talking about like Facebook ads. If you can get a 1.3, 1.4 ROAS return, you can build a multi-million-dollar business literally in a year. And that's the kind of thing that I think that I've learned being on the other side of things, watching guys like you who have always been like, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this and I've done that. And then like we've been, just like everybody else, we've been like kind of like bummed that we haven't done it yet. And then you realize that you're exactly right, man. Like we knew what to do. But it just came down to having the right offer in front of the right people in a market that isn't oversaturated. I mean,
you got to take a lot of swings. And, look, dude, I've been an e-commerce entrepreneur since 2005. Do you know how much shit I've had that has failed?
Most of it.
Do you know how long it took me to make my first $1 million in a business? 7 years. I mean, 7 years of trying. And I'm talking early 20s trying, which is before I understood how to not hustle, grind, sacrifice, and work all day. Before I understood that it was a marathon and not a sprint. Before, back when I never made it to college, so I wasn't in college. I was working a side job to pay my bills. I was working at a yoga studio. I was doing some e-commerce consulting, but all the rest of my time I was trying to make businesses work. And so, I have all these wonderful success stories, but that's only after, 15 years in the game. You know what I mean? And I feel like what happens with people is they, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. Some to the effect of that, right? It's like, and it's so hard not to compare yourself with everybody in your Instagram feed, because you're seeing your peers and you're seeing people's success and you're seeing everybody putting out the best version of their life, when it's like, look, we all have our fears, our anxieties, our struggles with our physical body, our mental, emotional struggles, our struggles in our relationship. Like we all are experiencing the spectrum of emotion from sadness to happiness. And like, this is part of being human. And then what we broadcast to the world is the spectrum that we, how we want to be perceived and how we want others to perceive us. And then I'm looking at that and I'm judging myself in relationship to the shit that I see out there. But it's like, look, everybody is human. Everybody's having the same set of experiences. And really what's going to dictate your own happiness in life is not whether or not you are successful. Look, there's a level at which you have to provide for your family, especially as men, right? We receive the conditioning that if we are not able to provide, we are not valuable. And that is so heavily ingrained in us as guys. It's ingrained in us as heavily as women believe that their value is about how they look, their youth, their beauty, their ability, their sex appeal. Like they, if women don't feel like they have that, or at least in the eyes of society, they don't feel as valuable. Well, turns out that, if you can figure out how to make enough money to be able to eat when you need to, be able to kind of pay your baseline bills and not be in a crazy amount of debt, which is actually very hard to do. But like, let's say you make $100,000 a year pre-tax in Western society, in most states in America. Let's just go with America. Adding more money on is not going to make you happier. Money can buy you comfort. I can tell you, having gone from poor to now being one of the richer people I know, and I'm talking about, and I'm sweating all crazy. I'm talking about, hand-me-down clothes, school lunches, power going out, water getting turned off, the whole, not having means as a kid to now having means. Your actual happiness is not dictated by how much money you make, even though you think it's going to be different once you make more money. But then all of a sudden you make money and you realize you have all the same problems that you had before. It does not fix any of your relationships. It doesn't really fix anything. It allows you to afford yourself more comfort. But if you're not doing the work on yourself to, do your best to show up to your social life in a way that is fulfilling, to show up to your intimate relationships in a way that feels good and put attention on those, to take care of your body. Like if you're not doing all that other shit, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You're hosed. I mean, how many people are rich and miserable and shackled to their jobs that they don't like and slogging it out every day just to make money? It's like, I would much rather be poor and doing something I enjoy than rich and doing some shit I don't like. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of off on a crazy
No,
tangent.
dude, like that's... But I think people need to hear that, man, because Tyrese, I don't know the model. He said, he said being rich it just makes things more convenient. He said that's it. He's like, I can get on a plane, my own plane. Yeah, I can buy stuff for my house whenever I want it. Yeah, I can go away whenever I want. He's like, but that doesn't make me happier.
It adds more complexity too. I will tell you, the pressure of being an entrepreneur and having it all riding on you, and you got to pay people's salaries, and you're responsible for this thing being successful, and and if it goes wrong, you got way more to lose. Like there's an added pressure that people don't talk about with greater success that is very intense, because as things get bigger, the upside of running them flattens out, but the downside spikes, right? Because like, let's take Boom, for example, $20 million a year plus business, a couple million in profit. If I have a down year and I lose money, I personally go bankrupt, because I'm not funded by anyone, right? Like I'm funding this thing I bootstrapped it all the way, right? Now I got money and savings, and I've been smart, and we can talk about how to manage money, and I have a lot of ideas and thoughts about that from having started with no money and got to where I am now and made every mistake in the book and not paying my taxes and all that shit. But and I learned it along the way. But I will tell you that everybody is so fascinated with scale. They want to get bigger. They want the $10 million business. And it would blow your mind the amount of 8 and even 9-figure business owners that I talk to who just wish they could go back to when their business was $2 million a year, $500,000 in profit, 3 employees, low stress. Because what's interesting is as you scale, the amount of profit you make dwindles. Your top line revenue goes up, but you make less profit for the money that you make, and the risk of it all gets bigger. So I actually feel like, I figure my viewpoint, and then I will let you take this, but I'm going to just keep on this tangent, which is my viewpoint is that the goal in business is wealth creation. It's to enjoy ourselves, to make good products that serve the world, to be profitable. But at the end of the day, also kind of the overarching goal is to create wealth. And to use that wealth, and I also label that as resource, to use that resource to take care of our family, to take care of our close-in community, and then use it for causes in the world that we find noble. I got 60 hippies to support who raised me. I got to take care of them. I mean, no joke. I got to take care of them. My wife has some visions of things she'd like to do with our land here in upstate New York. I have some other causes in the world that I find I have desire to support such as water preservation and things like that. And I figure I need to make about $100 million in liquid revenue, or liquid profit, which is you need to make a lot more money to get that kind of liquidity in order to achieve the goals that I have. Now, if I don't make those goals, fine, but this is what I'm shooting for. And turns out that wealth creation, when you really start to learn about it, you don't actually get rich from running cash flow businesses. The way that you make money, true money, is actually the sale of assets. If you look at our parents' generation, my parents, baby boomers, the way they understood this in terms of what they did was they took their 401ks, they invested it in real estate assets, they let those assets appreciate over decades, and then they sold those assets for more wealth, and then they used that wealth to pass down to future generations to invest in other assets. Well, the way that I'm doing this is by building brands and operating those brands and living off them, but then ultimately most of the money that I will ever make from any brand that I have is the day that I sell it. That's where you really make money. And so I'm focused on how do I create the most valuable asset possible. And I figure I got 15 years at this pace, right? I'm going to get back to the $2 million a year business I was talking about a second ago. But I got 15 years left at the pace that I'm going, ish, maybe only 10. And so in order to achieve my goals, I need assets that are as valuable as they can possibly be. Well, what makes an asset valuable? Number one, profit. How much profit does it have? That is going to be a huge factor in the valuation of that asset. I'll give you an example of a traditional e-commerce business under $1 million a year. Let's say it makes $1 million a year in revenue, $200,000 in profit. It's kind of an average e-com business of that size. That business is going to sell for between a 1 and a 4 at the high end, multiple of its yearly profit. So if it makes $200,000 a year in profit, it'll sell at the most for $800,000 in liquid capital, at the least for about $200,000. Well, $200,000 a year, $200,000 at one time is different than $200,000 spread over 12 months, right? What you can do with that kind of liquidity is different. You have access. It's why private equity, the private equity business model is simple. You take money, you buy businesses, you leave the operating teams in place for the most part. You let you buy 90% of a CEO founder's business. You give them security. You back it financially. You leave them and their team operating it. You support them with the areas of the business that they don't understand, financial strategy, supply chain logistics, whatever it happens to be. You let that grow over 3 or 4 years, and then you sell it. That is the highest returning business class in America, is private equity. And so what I've learned is that I'm actually a builder, and that what I need to become to reach my goals is a buyer. And I can't build businesses fast enough in order to, let's say if I build another one like Boom, I've done it, right? I'm like maybe 30% of the way there to my goal with just the one asset that I've been working on over 10 years. I got Zipify now, also worth a good amount of money. So
that's one click upsell. So just want everybody to know, we use that all the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So anyways, let me get back to this, which is when I'm gonna take the swings while I have the energy and shoot for the moon. But ultimately, the business that I think I will operate in my late 40s, 50s, etc., is going to be a business that'll probably do $2 million a year in revenue, 500 to 600 in profit, low overhead, low complexity, good lifestyle model. And I think that if you, at any level, have created a business of any kind, let's say you don't have the crazy goals that I have of wealth creation, and you just don't want to work a job that you don't like. You want to have something that's yours, that you get to, have agency in and autonomy in and really be the person who's running it. If you can create a business that creates over $100,000 a year in profit, that you don't work in more than 40 hours a week, and that you have full control of, and you are enjoying yourself, doing good in the world, making a good product, and you're profitable, you've won this game. You may not think it because you're sold that you need the biggest business and the most employees and the biggest office space and all this bullshit that is actually overhead, complexity, stress, drama. You've really, really, really won the game if you're making over $100,000 a year in your own operation of any kind and you're not overworked, because most people who have that big giant business are stressed out of control. They're overworked. They're underslept. They're fucked. And so I really just want to stress that, like, what I've learned, and look, I am playing the game of big business owner, and I'm attempting to do it, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job in a way that is in support of my lifestyle, not at the expense of my lifestyle, which is why I'm always talking about, really set boundaries around your work life. If you can't do it in the time that you gave yourself, it's not worth doing. If you can't delegate it, don't do it. Like, don't sacrifice yourself for the success of the brand, because ultimately you will burn out. So anyways, I don't know how I got on that tangent because people are talking about They want the biggest business possible, and I think that is a misguided goal.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing as far as goal wise goes for me is that I've learned is like you said, the overall wellness, because I was a fucking lunatic. Like Jason always busts my balls about it. I always had to be in front of my computer because I was like an hourly agency guy. You know, I owned an agency. So it's like if I wasn't at the computer, I wasn't making money. And, you know, Jason at one point had to like convince me to go to my kid's soccer game. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
No,
here?
I said, dude, like,
and then
if you're not gonna do those things, go work for somebody, because then you can't do them. But if your kids playing soccer down the street,
too, like, and for you, because what I've seen from you is the complete opposite. Like you see the Gary V's of the world, 18 hours a day, you know, hustle all the time. We're like, okay, I got that side of things, and then I got the Ezra side of things, who's like, you know, in the middle of the day, just making a nice coffee with his wife, or like making a weird salad or some kind of weird dish or something, and doing his jujitsu. And I'm like, wow, that seems like the way to go with this. Like just having that overall wellness, social interaction with my family, and that's really the goal of this whole thing.
Yeah, and like, look, I am optimizing for happiness because I lost my business partner last year. Boom, like that. You don't fucking know how long you have. You really don't. And I have my team do this thought experiment of like, let's say you died tomorrow. And I know it's heavy and I know people don't want to confront this, but like, let's just, for sake of argument, say you got diagnosed with some rare form of cancer. You only had a week to live. Dude, were you happy with the last 3 months? Like, are you living a life that is bringing you fulfillment? Because if you're not, you've missed the point. Look, I mean, we can all grind and sacrifice and hustle and like, hey, there's sometimes you got to do it, right? If I'm launching if Zipify is rolling out a new feature, I might have a week where I put in 10 to 12 hour days to really try to get that over the line. I am not against hard work. I came from the bottom and I worked my ass off to get here. Like, I understand hard work, but I also understand that at the end of the day, hard work for hard work's sake is not worth it. Like, I want to be enjoying my life now, while I'm living it.
Right, because you don't know. Because you're here now.
Jason has to convince me to take money out of the business, because I've gone so long with like just, you know, providing for everybody else. You know, the middle of last year, we were like, the agency was blowing up and it was just full of stress, taking care of all the employees, the payroll. And I'm like, having that little money in the bank is just like, it just feels good. You know, it's like a little security blanket. It's like, we got to take some money. We got to enjoy it.
Well, we got to enjoy it though, Ezra. We can't just leave it there and watch it and just say, okay, now let's just keep growing it and let's just keep living the same way we're living. Like,
well, one analogy that I give for this is my neuroses around a fridge full of beverages. So
we saw the video.
Yeah, so it's like, look, you know, you don't have to think, oh, I got to go buy a boat. No. For me, it's like when I grew up, you know, I'd watch MTV Cribs and I'd see that they'd open, you know, people would open their fridge and they have Lunchables and they'd have all these beverages. I opened my fridge. I never saw any of that stuff. So I always thought, when I make it, I'm going to have a fridge that's filled with beverages. And to this day, I will stuff my fridge full of sparkling water, coconut water, every kombucha, and I open the fridge and every day I feel like I made it. Like I'm experiencing just a little. It doesn't cost much to fill your fridge full of beverages, but for me it does something. It has me feel like I'm doing well, like I've gotten there. Like every day I have that feeling. I have my espresso machine. That's a $3,000 espresso machine. People think that is insane, an insane amount of money to spend on an espresso machine. But you know what? I drink an espresso every morning. I derive so much pleasure and satisfaction and joy out of the whole experience of grinding it and tamping it. Like it's a ritual. And I mean, look, you might spend $3,000 over 2 years at Starbucks. I never go to Starbucks. I spent it on this one thing, and every day I get enjoyment out of that. And so I'm really a fan of finding things that are going to bring you pleasure in the moment and incorporating those into your daily routine, because why not? You know?
Well, you know,
my father-in-law came. I'm sorry, Jason. My father-in-law came in from Russia in 1975 with $10 in his pocket and a baby, and he created a pretty successful retail business in the Bronx. And now, I swear to God, every cabinet you open in his house has some kind of expensive alcohol in it, or wine, or scotch. He doesn't even drink that much, and it's just his thing. Like, he just likes to be able to go to the store, buy a nice expensive bottle of scotch, and when he brings it home, he feels good when he puts it in the cabinet, even though he doesn't drink it. It's just his thing. It's the same kind of concept.
And, Ezra, I got a funny story for you. I got to get this in. So Kevin, right? I always make fun of him. Like, oh, I know, Kevin. You want to run back to your computer. You want to stare at your computer for 12 hours a day. I get it. I understand. For me, you know what my thing is? My thing is, if I want to go play golf at 1 o'clock, I can do it. If I can go,
yeah, baby.
You know, that's for me. I don't mind working at 9 o'clock at night, but I want to be able to at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If I want to go play golf, I want to be able to do that. And that's the kind of business I want to build. The agency, to me, like it locks me down and it just drives me crazy. I want to be
Don't worry,
free.
I'm coming over to the dark side.
I
Don't
see
worry.
that.
I'll be there.
I also discovered that there was a level of escapism that I was using my businesses for. And it was like, if there was something going on in my life that I didn't want to confront, I could always escape. I always had the convenient excuse of, well, the business needs my attention.
Wait till you have kids.
Wait
till you have kids, man.
That I found that I was willing to use my business as an excuse to non-confront shit in my life. That then when I came back, it was still there. And I was like, okay, well, this is a bad strategy. Because I come back, it's still hanging there waiting for me. So it's like, well, fuck, I might as well just confront that shit now and not run to the business to hide, because I'm not productive then when I'm working in the business, because I'm really actually thinking about this other thing that I'm trying to hide from. So I kind of learned how to play these mind games with myself of like, okay, am I working because I'm like focused and putting attention on something that's actually in the direction of the positive, motion of the business, or am I just trying to not do some, like, for example, we have to move. We're moving in the middle of the pandemic. All right, we got kicked out of this house. It's a rental. So we're packing all of our shit up. It's like, well, we got a month to pack our stuff. It's 2 weeks in. I have not packed anything. I've conveniently had work to do. The cycle it's like this mental trap that is available that even if you are aware of it, still catches you, right? Like, I'm aware of my behavior pattern here, which is I'm non-confronting this moving cycle by working. And even though I can sit back and, armchair psychologist understand that, it's still happening to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of this it's an eternal process.
I do that when the baby cries and my wife wants me to grab him. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go work. I mean, somebody has to pay the bills here. It's
conveniently available whenever we need it.
It is, man. And but no, man. What I like about conversations like this, dude, is like, everybody on the outside, right? And when I say that, I mean like the guys who are still like grinding it out and struggling. And like you said, I've been in this game for 17 years. Kevin's been in it forever. It's so different on the other side. And what I love about conversations like this is like, you're a really successful guy. Kevin and I are like kind of like just getting there, multi-million-dollar business coming up.
I would argue that if you've created an agency that is doing over $1 million a year in revenue, like, that is an achievement. Most people, so this is the thing about, like, you see someone like me and you're like, oh, fucking whatever. But dude, $1 million business. You realize most local businesses, every local business that you shop from, they only do a couple $100,000 a year tops, right? So you have a business off your couch that is bigger than 95% of businesses in America. I mean, it's like, it is a real achievement to have created what you've created. And it's so easy to downplay our own success and look at the thing we made and be like, I don't like it for these reasons, because everything has its flaws. Everything has its parts that are hard about it. Everything has its things that we wish were different. Like, for me with services, I could never figure out how to work with clients. I just was terrible at that. And so it's like, but what you guys have built, a following in the e-commerce world, a successful podcast that people listen to and get value from, an agency that pays your bills and that makes $1 million plus in a year. I mean, dude, that is for real. Most people don't create that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's true, because we don't. It's hard to think that way when you're listening to these entrepreneurs. Are like, yeah, dude, I did like 20 million last month, and we're like, oh, man, we're working for these clients who, like, we have to be there as if we're an employee, and these guys are on a beach with their laptop, which obviously is bullshit, but.
Sure.
You're right, man. You're right. I mean, Kevin and I don't stop and say, shit, man. Like, and Kevin's been doing the agency much longer than me. I've only been in the agency with him for 4 years or 5 years. And he's really the one. But you're right, man.
It's taken a lot of turns, but it's been around for like 17 years. It's finally kind of spiking a little bit, which is cool. But it's so nice to have kind of a little bit of that freedom to go along with it.
Yeah, and that's what I love.
Sorry, man. I was looking at when I was running my agency was, you can buy an e-commerce business for $100,000. You just buy one that only makes $100,000 in revenue a year, or for 40 grand, 30 grand, you need to buy a small one that has supply chain figured out so that they got a product they sell and is doing some level of marketing and has some customers, and then you just grow that. And so as I'm looking ahead at like, okay, phase 2 of my business is going to be buying brands, not building them. I'm looking in the deal. I'm like going to start with a couple small ones. Like, hey, I'm not going to buy a brand that costs me over 100 grand. I'm just going to buy a small one that exists, that has a product, a website, and some customers, and is not making much money. Maybe it's Amazon only, maybe it's not, whatever. Someone just wants to get out, and I'm going to take that. I'm going to start there. I'm going to scale that. So like you can get in at any level, you know what I mean? Like you make enough profit in your agency in order to buy. Not that I recommend taking the business that you have that is working and just going deep rather than wide, because the compulsion as entrepreneurs is to do a bunch of things. And it's like, well, if you're doing a bunch of things, you don't ever do one thing well, you know? I even saw that in Zipify. I used to have an app called Coupon Countdown. Had to stop it. I had to shut it down. It was a good app, but it was like taking away from Zipify pages and one-click upsell, which are the offers that really are the 2 best offers that I had in the app agency. And I want to make every app, and I want to have this idea and I have that idea. I have all these ideas, but it's like I have limited resource from a development standpoint. I can only build so much stuff. So it's like, well, I should focus on the things that are actually working and see how far I can take those rather than trying to do a whole bunch of shit. So
yeah, we needed to hear that, Kev, because we tried to do a Facebook course already. And we're like
that's
shit.
the first thing we went. That's the first thing we went to.
You know, and you know, maybe
we're gonna replicate this thing for sure.
Right. And
yeah.
you know what's interesting, Ezra, we'll close here. We've been on for a while, and I want to respect your time. I got a tea time, so but you know, I sent out an email for this Facebook course, and I got an email back from someone, and she's like, I think you're making too much money with your Facebook ads for me to buy your course. I'm like, huh? I thought you wanted to see all that money, you know? So
that's funny. Hey, listen, it was good to be on. You know, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. We should do it again sometime. Maybe I'll come down to the studio at some point. You know.
Yeah, dude. As soon as this Corona thing is over, man, we'd love to have you. We have a lot of fun. We have a pool table. We have darts. We have giant 70-inch TV. We hang out. We watch movies. You know, I mean,
if we can ever get back there, it'd be really nice.
Yeah. So definitely, man. We'd love to chat with you again. I mean, I mean, this is great.
Well, I told you I don't write anything down for these podcasts. I did have a few things that I want to discuss that we didn't touch any of them. So I'll save this page for the next time.
Save it for the next time.
It was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Ezra. It's been awesome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Yeah, man, it was awesome.
So that was a really fun interview. I really enjoyed that.
You know, it's funny because you see all these people on social media. You kind of think you know them, but Ezra turned out to be probably one of the coolest dudes that we've gotten to talk to thus far. He's really a down-to-earth guy. He knows his shit, and
smart guy. I mean, we literally could have talked for hours. Like he, you know, we've had interviews these last couple months, and it almost seems like we're rushing through, like some of these e-commerce owners or the entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I'm trying to rush him. It was like, let's just talk. I mean, like I love talking shop, which we love to too. So it was really cool, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So before we go, make sure you go check out Klaviyo, which saved our ass yesterday, like we said, and sign up for their demo. Go to klaviyo.com/uncensored. That's KLAVIYO.com/uncensored. They also have an introductory plan that they have. It's a free plan that you can get going and start testing it out. So make sure you check those guys out. They're awesome. And Rakuten Super Logistics, head over to our landing page for them. It's ecommerceuncensored.com/RSL. They'll compare all your shipping and fulfillment costs. If they can't beat it, they will write you a check for $500. So that's awesome. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 165. And as always, you can check us out at ecommerceuncensored.com. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.
Later.